So we'll get started. I'm trying to admit a couple of other people right now. I'm very encouraged by the size of our group, and I'm very happy everybody could join. All right. So if everybody can hear me, I'm just going to say a warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for getting, 5 o'clock open for you for our weekly conference on astrology and Ayurveda. I think, as usual, the best place to start before we talk about some of the configurations that are going on, and there's a lot, and you guys might want to take a couple of notes, but at the end of the day, it's going to become very simple because I want to hear from each and every one of you, if possible, to talk about some of the things that are going to help us transform. So as we start off each week, we want to talk a little bit about our mission statement. Our goal here, doing this weekly call with all of you, is to be able to utilize astrology and Ayurveda and any other technique that we want to use as a way of transforming ourselves and ways to create an abundant level of joy in our lives. And also whatever techniques allow you to create service to our fellow earthlings, those besides astrology and Ayurveda are always at our disposal. It's not going to be limited to just astrology and Ayurveda. We have all kinds of different methods for transformation. We can use behavioral cognitive therapy. We can use past life regressions. We can use acupuncture. We can use dream analysis. Whatever it is, our goal here is to be able to use these techniques as a way of finding abundance in our lives. Today, we're going to start off, and it's going to be largely, there's Mary, going to be largely about what we can use through astrology and Ayurveda. Mary, I'm going to ask you if you can mute your phone. You got a lot of wind, honey. So I don't know who has the wind. It's usually either my mom or anybody who's on an iPhone. So maybe you guys can just put mute or lower the volume. Anyway, so moving right along, as far as our mission statement is concerned, and starting off with the understanding of astrology and Ayurveda, we know that astrology is a way of using a tool that allows us to create improvement and create abundance in our lives. The ancient Vedics and the senseis of knowledge left us all this information over 10,000 years as a way of utilizing this to create abundance in not only our health, but in our relationships, in our karmic path. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because today is going to be largely about karmic path. We just got somebody overseas. That's wonderful. Good. All right. So as it relates to astrology and Ayurveda, as part of our mission statement, we like to always say the human body is made up of about 80 or 90% fluids. We're getting a lot of people joining us right now. And those fluids are in the blood, lymphatic fluid, cerebral spinal fluid.
You can keep the audio on, connecting to audio. Is the camera on?
Do you want? Excuse me. I'm going to ask you, Miss 061429. Can you put your phone on?
I know.
Excuse me. Can you guys please put your phones on mute? Or if you're on a cell phone, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So as we were saying, we're saying hello to a lot of new people. Oh, Marjorie, there you are. Can you hear okay?
So I'll call you when it's over.
Okay, looks like she can hear. So as we were saying, the human body is made up of 80 to 90% fluids. These fluids are in the form of blood, lymphatic fluid, cerebral spinal fluid. And we know that those fluids are subjected to the effects of gravity. Okay, as part of our ongoing mission statement, we want to be able to create an understanding of why astrology and Ayurveda is such a valuable and ethical science. It was left here to us. We all physicians take a something called the Hippocratic Oath. I'm going to ask you guys, can you please put your phones on mute? There's so much noise coming through. It's really hard. Thank you. What we're going to do is when we get you engaged, you can raise your hand or then just unmute then, and then you can join in. But whoever doesn't have their phone, if you're on with a cell phone, please mute your phone. It's super, super hard to hear without it. So the human body made up of these cerebral spinal fluids and neurotransmitters. We know that all the celestial bodies in the universe, and we talk about this every week. And even though there's some newcomers here, you probably may already know that the human body is subject to the effects of gravity by all these celestial objects. Well, in a nutshell, these gravitational pulls, these electronic reactions of all these wonderful celestial objects imprint their gravitational pull and imprint their chemical composition into our neurotransmitters and into our cerebrospinal fluid at the time that we're first born, creating all our likes, our dislikes, and our tendencies. And we know that we can express and evaluate those tendencies through Ayurveda. I'm sure everybody's at least heard of Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurvedic medicine and astrology were always designed to be utilized together. They just got separated over the years because of historical, wars and losses of records and all this stuff. But only as of the last 100 or 200 years did we actually stop using Ayurveda as a way of diagnosing people. Now, when we get to the end of today's conference, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening to us on an Ayurvedic level. I was hoping Christina might join us today, and I don't see her. She is our resident 10-year-old expert on Ayurveda. And she always is very entertaining, but she's not here yet. So what we want to do is we want to jump right in and talk a little bit about what's happening astrologically. Okay. So for the week, I wrote this earlier this week on Sunday as we were getting ready for the radio show I was doing with my mom. And we said, as of the week of September 14th, we want to ask ourselves, because of the full moon in Virgo, and because there's a very favorable, finally, Adam, something favorable with a trine between the sun and Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn. Well, we want to ask ourselves, what is the newest changed version of ourselves? For those who don't know what's going on astrologically, very quickly, for the entire year, we've been experiencing what's called a conjunction of the big boy players in the solar system. And that is Saturn, the planet of harsh changes, like the father who teaches you lessons and smacks you on the rear end for going outside and running into traffic, is in line with Pluto, the outer planet that is involved with death and transformation. And they're in the same 30-degree wedge. And they're creating all this turmoil that we've been experiencing for this entire year. Since this pandemic started was exactly when Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter, the big player, all went into conjunction with one another. All right, so what does this mean? It means we've been struggling for this whole year. It's been in Capricorn, and it's teaching us lessons on Capricorn. Capricorn represents skeletal structure. For the individual, it represents our individual skeleton. But on a societal level, it represents the skeletal structure of all of our political system and our social system. Okay. So it's in line with Jupiter, which is the big Marshall stack amplifier of these other two planets. All three of them are in the same wedge. One's at 22 degrees, one's at 23 degrees, one's at 17 degrees. Who cares? They're all in the same place and they're all propelling this big configuration going forward. All right. So each week we've been talking about ways that we are aware of what's going on and what we want to do to move the energy of the planet forward. We want to today be able to describe your new version. How does it look different from your old version? The month of September, not much has changed, okay, regarding the push and pull frustration that we're experiencing from Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter. The reason why is because Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto are still in conjunction with one another, but their degrees have not changed throughout the entire month. So you may think September, as it's been described by many astrologers, there's not a lot happening. However, what we see in astrology, I'm going to let somebody in. Okay. Even though Mary, I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to ask you guys to mute your phone if you would be so kind. Thank you. What we see in astrology is that if a planet's if their degrees don't change, we don't see a heck of a lot of change in our lifestyles based on that planet's identity. However, this week, something really wonderful happened, and many of you may have been feeling this. There was a new moon in Virgo giving us great insight and great propulsion into creating our new destiny. You know, the things that we've been working on through this frustrating conjunction are going to manifest now as we create our identity. In other words, we'll become what we've been working on, and we've all been working on it. You know, the question for today is, is going to be what is new about the way you're identifying with yourself and the way we're going to identify with ourselves going into 2021. Eddie and I always talk about, Edward Miller's in the upper corner there in the left for mine. You know, we always talk about, hi Donna, we always talk about what is happening during this 2020 year. It's been really difficult. And the reason why is because we're going through 2020 as a means of learning our lesson. The last time we had Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter in a conjunction like this was 600 years ago. We say it every week. 600 years ago, Martin Luther stamped the Reformation on the Catholic Church's front door and said, no more killing people in the dungeon just because they're not Catholic. And that age propelled us into an age of discovery and creativity, which is going to become very significant in today's discussion. Guys, I want to remind you, if you have any questions at all, please stop. Many of us are new today, and I know that in the world and the science of astrology and Ayurveda, some of this might be a new concept. I want to welcome Maria. I think your last name is Lezaru. Beautiful. Thank you.
How are you guys?
Thank you. And we don't really know how much you know about astrology, but please throw your hand up.
Yeah, I don't know anything, but I will. Thank you so much.
Okay. There are no stupid questions, only holding on to ignorance. So we want to understand astrology is a science that every major government around the world is using as a way of gaining an advantage on their rivaling governments. In 1979, Nancy Reagan got Ronald elected because she knew Ronnie's Mars was getting in line with his Jupiter. The planet of abundance was in line with the planet of his career. Of course, the next thing is known, he gets the presidency. We've been struggling this year because of Saturn and Pluto, an arrangement we haven't seen in 600 years, as we've said. But even though we've been struggling, we have this month something interesting happening. For whatever reason, the planets are not moving too much. So we're in a little bit of a stalemate for the month of September due to the degrees not changing in Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And they have been the bad guys teaching us all these lessons this year. You know, we do have big changes happening with the sun and the moon, however, and especially this week. So we know right now we're in Virgo season, right? The sun is in Virgo. Well, the new moon on Wednesday went into Virgo, and it's just coming out of Virgo going into Libra. Now, this could not be more perfect. Why? Because Virgo is all about the energy of doing what is necessary to get the job done. You know, we don't notice Virgo being a very creative force. It doesn't dream up of new ideas. It's the energy that moves things forward. The energies that create new concepts, those are energies like Pisces or Aquarius or Gemini or Aries. And you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had Mars in Pisces. So everybody had this great feeling of recreating themselves. Right now, we're pushing forward with the version we've already created for ourselves for this upcoming millennium. I've spoken to many of you guys about this, and you're well on your way for creation of this new concept. You know, if you've not come to grips with your new identity or your new mission going forward, then it's time again to think about those things in the upcoming months. I don't think this week is the week to actually be recreating new ideas. Remember, guys, if we're going to use astrology and Ayurveda to our advantage, all we have to do is understand the biorhythms and the circadian rhythms of the universe to be able to understand how to maneuver through these times. All right, so I just want to say a couple of quick things. I have been in a great state of appreciation for you guys all joining this Zoom. I've noticed that the people who are coming to me for here in our center with Eddie and I, we're doing a lot of work with people who are recreating their new identities. I have to tell you, and I think Ed would agree with me on this, we believe that the people that have been chosen to participate in this particular conference, and many of you who are regulars with me here at Bridges or even Soul Trans Sync, which is the new center here that we are in Fort Lauderdale, and before this was the Center for Inner Wisdom. I believe, and without sounding too self-serving, I believe that you've been chosen on some level to be able to not only transform yourselves, but also to change and transform the energy on the planet as we enter into this incredible new Aquarian age. I was just talking about this with Dr. Anisha yesterday, and you know, the Aquarian age, for those of you who don't understand, it's just very simple. Aquarius is the sign of expanded mindset. if you have it anywhere in your chart, like I have it in my Venus, so I give love. My Venus planet is how I give love. I give love to those people around me, like you guys, and to my loved ones outside of the Zoom, as a way of increasing expanded mind concepts. That's what Aquarius does. Aquarius also is the philanthropist who tries to help the world. All right, so in whatever is going to be our incredible new identity, and I want to hear from you guys today about what you've done to recreate your identity moving forward. Whatever it is, we know that it comes down to one thing, and that is being in service to humanity. Because when you stay in service, the people who are chosen to change the energy on the planet become extremely prolific. Now, many of you are asking how, and many of you have been looking at this quite closely over this last year. And many of you have accepted the role already for much of your adult lives. Like I've been doing this since I was 28 years old, or even before that. So is Edward. I know, many of you guys have been also. Maybe one of the things that we can do today is to kind of share with each other when we made this great shift in our consciousness to be the people that change the planet energy. One of the ways we can achieve this information about our particular life path and to understand our particular role in this monumental mission is to utilize great gifts that were given to us by the ancient sages and the yogis, which is to look, first of all, at our astral makeup. Now, this comes down to looking at our astrological charts and understanding our Ayurvedic profile. I'm sorry, did somebody want to jump in? Maybe not. Just jump in if you want to jump in. I'm going to be done in a second. I'm going to be done in 2 seconds. To do this, we want to look at a couple of, first of all, astrology and Ayurveda, as I said earlier, are just one or two different scientific methods that we can use to look at ourselves, to find our correction. But there's many different types of modalities that we can look at. Whether you want to look, we do psychoanalysis and cognitive behavioral therapy here. If you want to do past life regressions, or if you just want to use your own intuitive abilities, these are all great ways to find out where you want to make corrections.
I'm just listening to it just to see if he's saying anything important.
Hey, Mary, can you put your phone on mute, hon?
I did.
Thank you, love. Okay, so to do this, we want to look at a combination of planet and house arrangements in our natal chart while using information to evaluate them on an Ayurvedic level. It's really the beauty of using astrology and Ayurveda combination-wise to be able to get more insight into ourselves. So one of the things that I wanted to do today, hey, Mary, can you hear me, hon?
Yes.
Can you mute your phone, love?
I did.
No, you didn't.
Hold on, let me see if I can do it for you. Push down and put that down. There you go.
If you want to jump in, just unmute it. But you're again,
I turn the volume down. I don't know.
any luck? Okay. If you can't mute it, maybe you can turn your volume down because it's really coming through loud and clear for the whole Zoom conference. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So we were talking about one of the methods that we use as a way of understanding what our correction might be. And of course, each week we've joined each other on this beautiful journey as using astrology and Ayurveda as one of the ways we look at corrections about ourselves. We know that astrology is an imprint that's been taken at the moment we're born, and it creates all our likes, our dislikes, and our tendencies. And we know Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine is the way we reflect those energies. Now we know that we're going to use Eddie as an example in just a second. But in Ayurveda, we know there are three energies. There's the aggressive Pitta energy, which I have a lot of. It's very direct. It speaks like I speak, with direct, trying to make a point. They're typically the multitasking, stressed out, overachieving type A personalities. And when we fall out of place and out of balance, we tend to experience stress-related disorders. Then there are people who come from the middle dosha. Forgive my middle finger, but that middle dosha is Vata. That is the creative, etheric, yogic type of energy. I have a lot of that also, and so does Eddie. Then we have the third energy called kapha. I love to use Sharon as an example, but Sharon is not with us. But the example of kapha is somebody who's very relaxed, very methodical. We need these people because they keep us in check. Okay, they fall out of balance. When a kapha person falls out of balance, we notice they have a tendency towards being slow, or maybe even experiencing depression, or maybe even gaining some weight, diabetes, things of a thyroid nature, things of that nature. Now, I'm going to go back to using Ed as an example. We want to be able to use astrology and Ayurveda as a tool for our transformation, okay? When we look at Edward Miller, there he is. Look at how handsome he is. He's got a lot of the middle dosha, the Vata energy. The Vata energy is that creative, airy, etheric energy. And the reason we see it when we look at it on his astrological chart is because he has a ton of air energy in key places, like in Mars and in his sun. He's got Gemini and Aquarius, two of the airiest, most creative things. I have a lot of it in my chart too. That's why we have this blend of creativity. Now, Ed and I are very similar because we both have a lot of creative Vata, middle dosha, etheric energy. But I have a lot of aggressive Pitta energy, which is like, oh, I'm going to get this done. Eddie has it too, but he's got probably more creativity. So now we understand a little bit of how the blend of his astrological chart and his airy creative energy, which is being reflected in his Ayurveda, has come to be. Now, my question for all of you, as I'm going to hand this over to you guys for a little bit, I want to understand, you know, Eddie's been working in this field for a long time, but I have to say, I don't want to answer for you, Ed, but one of the things that you've done to recreate yourself is exactly this, understanding your astrological makeup a little more and your Ayurveda. Is it fair to say there are a number of other transformations that have taken place besides that, or any that you can share with us? You got to unmute, bro.
Absolutely. You know, as a Gemini, I understand my dual nature very well. I understand that I can believe this and I can believe that. And as a result of that, there's sometimes conflict and resistance. And what I'm realizing that my life purpose is to find resolve with this and that. And this past year has been really refining that. And the awareness that this and that don't matter anyway. What matters is my heart and what I'm in peace with, and how I'm being kind and how I'm being thoughtful, not only to others but to myself especially. So it's you know the Gemini side of me, which is sometimes dual, has been tamed a bit by the awareness that neither side is worth falling on the sword for.
Eddie, I love it. I'm going to ask a very simple question. And remember last week, I just can't forget about Maria. Maria Fitzpatrick was here, and a number of you also did this. We're finding great strength. Remember, guys, you are the folks who are here to change the planet energy. We're entering a new millennium, and we're entering the age of Aquarius. This whole conference is about finding out where we find our own vulnerability, sharing it with people who we know are safe, because we're among a bunch of safe people. Last week, I looked at Mars retrograde, and I very vulnerably, I believe, expressed to you how I basically screwed up with my own stupid actions. This week, I'm going to ask you both, all of you, to be vulnerable as you can, and not with a lot of flowery BS like, oh, you got to breathe, we got to do yoga, you got to transform. Stop, cut the shit. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. How have you really recreated yourself? And let's hear it, and let's make ourselves vulnerable, because the moment we're vulnerable, our strength goes through the roof. Remember Maria last week? I said, Maria unburdened her entire self before people that she didn't even know. I said, Maria, how you feel afterwards? She says, I feel liberated. I feel blessed. I feel reborn. How have you recreated yourself in a way that's different from how you were before 2020?
Yeah, well, I used to try to control everything.
There you go. Now we're talking.
If I could control it, I felt I could determine its outcome. And,
yeah.
And I realize now that I can't control much of anything at all. So when situations come up where I feel as though I'm being vulnerable and I have no control over it, and it could go this way or that, and I have a preference as to how I'd like it to go, you know, I now am able to just kind of you know, just see that in mind and realize that I need to just center myself and not get caught up in having to have control over anything. And
I love it.
That's a moment by moment awareness that I don't have to control things.
That's wonderful. So you're saying, in a nutshell, you were more reactive, and now you are in a place of allowing the universe to take place around you rather than trying to control every bit of.
But what I'm really getting out of this is that the awareness that there's always things pulling you and to see things in different ways. Now that's
Right.
what I'm always being pulled. So that's what's causing the stress in me right now. My anxiety.
Right, that's good.
There's two ways to see it, and I don't, you know what I mean? That's what causes most of my anxiety.
You know, it's very interesting. You and I have a very similar parallel to the recreation of ourselves into a more gentler and a more patient and a less controlling version of ourselves. I would love to hear from anybody. I don't know how we're going to do this because we have a lot of people, but if anybody feels that they have the boldness, the chutzpah, the courage to go ahead and make themselves feel vulnerable about the ways they've transformed, as we're getting ready to go to 2021, remember guys, 2021 is going to be a speed conveyor belt that's going to move us into the next generation. Now is the time to do this. I don't mean to put pressure on you, but maybe I do. Maybe a little bit of pressure could serve you, because you guys are the ones here to change the energy. I'm going to give you a moment. Maria, what can we share with you, love? Unmute, unmute.
Okay, there you go. Okay, since I'm the new one, I think that maybe it will make me more courageous. So the thing is, it's funny that this is happening to me, because actually this is not a coincidence. I call it Godcidence. I'm being actually trying to transform myself and become into a spiritual world. And I just keep praying, and I think you guys are actually a God-sent answer for this. And I'm struggling, literally, every day. I feel like I need to do something, but the problem is I don't know exactly where to go, what to do, like how to start it. But I kind of have an idea, and that makes me very anxious. It makes me feel like sometimes also very powerless. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird situation, because I feel so like I can do this, I need to do something, but at the same time I'm like the power is taken away from me with my own thoughts, and then here I am, I'm like stuck. That's how I feel.
Good. Maria, that is so vulnerable. Thank you. Bravo.
You're welcome.
I want to share something that I made a point of share. I forgot to share this with you all earlier. Many of you I've read, Donna, Eddie, Belinda, Adam, I have done readings on a lot of you, and I would think it's probably fair to say, and everybody will probably lend a collective nod, that through the reading that we have done, the astrological reading, which unlocks a great deal of information about your karmic path and your strengths, have all led us down a road of greater insight. If we didn't already know what we could be doing as part of our changed karmic path. Maria, none of the people involved here have been chosen by accident. This is all with a very great cosmic delivery system. I wanted to say, for those of us who have not looked at their astrological charts, you and Iris Martinez is with us. I'm looking for, and we're going to look at your chart next week, Maria, and the same thing with Iris. We're going to do a reading on your Ayurvedic profile and your astrological profile. You too, Iris. And we're going to unlock tremendous amounts of information. I don't want you to feel lost. I want you to feel exactly what you're feeling, because it's real and it's super authentic, and it's exactly where you're supposed to be. And thank you so, so much for having the courage to do that on a first visit. So I want to hear a story from somebody about where they were and where they are now. And if you're courageous like Maria is and you don't know, come forward and say, because everybody's feeling it. We're going out as sheep among wolves right now. And now is the time for basic training. I'm telling you, I've had very clear messages about what this Zoom conference means, and it is speaking loud and clear. We are getting basic training for what's coming up in 2021. What's up, Eddie?
Yeah, I want to even be more raw. You know, my daughter has been in town for the past 2 months. It is driving me crazy. She is 36 years old. She's very grown, and she's come home to, because she works for Facebook and she doesn't have to live in San Francisco right now. She can live anywhere. But being home has put a lot of stress on our household, who has been free of children for a very long time. And when I even driving home in the evening, back from my office, I find myself winding up and being in a sense of anxiety, because I know when I get home, I have to confront my grown daughter being there. Now,
Nice.
yeah, and it's a lot of anxiety. So, you know, when I say I'm struggling with that, what I really mean is I'm trying to become aware of what stories I'm telling myself that's keeping me stuck in this anxiety about my daughter being home. And I'm being kind, and at the same time, I'm trying to be kind and compassionate to even the anxiety that I'm experiencing right now. I'm not making my anxiety wrong. I'm just becoming aware of it in the process. And I think that awareness is what we all need to be doing. Not necessarily condemning our anxiety, but just becoming aware of it.
If you can say it in one sentence, how you were, what identity you were versus where you are now, how would you say it in one sentence? This is what I was, this is what I'm becoming.
I was angry daddy.
Good.
And now I'm peaceful daddy.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
But I have to be quiet more often and not say what I feel in my own house. And that can
me too. And other than this Zoom conference, I'm going to practice silence and the softer version of Scott. I'm sorry.
That's a good idea.
Eddie, we have the same correction this year. You and I have a lot of pitta energy. Anyway, so there's a lot of us today. Can anybody share? I'm going to keep prefacing this. We really want you to prostrate yourself, if possible, and leave yourself vulnerable. Remember, the greatest strength comes from the greatest vulnerability. How can you describe, like Eddie just described, angry daddy versus peaceful daddy? That is part of his transformation that he's going to use as a way of going out into the world and changing the vibration on this planet. I did too. Mine's the same one, very similar, except I'm not a daddy. I wish I was. And I'm a daddy to 10,000. Hey, so who wants to join? Who wants to tell us a little bit? Who wants to be a little vulnerable and talk about their shift and transition? It's okay. We can wait. You're coming.
Okay, I got something. I feel like I was very intolerant of other people, and now I feel that I'm trying to become more and getting to be a more tolerant person.
That's beautiful. Can you give us one sentence of, like Eddie? I like the one sentence idea. It's pretty cool. Angry daddy went to peaceful daddy. How would you sum that up, Danny?
I was like intolerant.
You could say bitch.
Easy.
You could say bitch.
Yeah, I was like a raging bitch who was like calmed down to be you know, more what's the like the goddess of like earth, like, you know, like
is Shiva? You're like a Shiva, a goddess now?
trying to get more close to her, like trying to become more, you know, at peace and get back to the tolerant, not bitch.
Danny, I love it. That's raw and that's vulnerable. And no one would ever say you're a bitch. You're a Taurus and you're a gentle, sweet, caring, kind person. But, you know, when the Taurus gets pushed and they go Pamplona, they gore everybody in their path. And maybe that's what you're referring to. And because you're a double Taurus. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So does anybody else feel courageous enough to talk about their transformation as we go out into this unbelievable new age? Belinda, I know so much about you and what you've transformed into. You feel courageous? Obviously she feels courageous. She's been putting
I'm
on her
doing my
makeup
hair
and doing
right
her
now
hair.
because I'm on my way out. But I'm sorry, I had a bad day today. My car wasn't taking gas. I guess I'm being less reactive. So my car would not take gas yesterday. And I had to get it towed because they even tried to put gas in it with a gas can and it still was spilling out. And apparently all the sensors went bad and they're they want $3,500 to replace the gas fuel tank. And then, so I'm basically like, as I'm on your Zoom call, signing documents for a new car that I'm picking up tomorrow.
How has this transformed? How has this transformed you?
I just have to, I'm just not worrying about it. I'm like, well, I just have to buy a new car and that's the end of it. And I can't get angry and it is what it is. And,
Belinda,
so
we love you because you always have a great story, but I have to tell you, one of the most vulnerable things I've ever seen out of you is watching you on this Zoom conference do your makeup and your hair.
my hair?
That is vulnerability.
Well, the other thing I've come to the conclusion of is I've suppressed my feminine and I've been very masculine. And so I have to do my hair now on a Zoom call. No. so I'll let someone else talk, but it's basically, yeah, I have a lot of Aries in my chart and I've got to stop my reactivity. And again, just like Eddie said, with the control, I used to be a control freak a long time ago too.
Yeah. That's that pitta energy coming out, and we can use that. And I know your chart very well. We talk weekly about it. You have 3 Aries in your chart, which is the most.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I think I have like 6, yeah.
Maybe, oh, okay. I look at those 3 very key areas like Mars and like a rising sign. And whatever they are, they're super, super powerful. And that is definitely fear expressing itself wanting to control, because we know that when Aries is at its best, they don't necessarily have to come from a place of control. I have it too, because my moon is Sag and my rising is like one of the most controlling of all, probably the most, which is Capricorn. And I know that that is a fear-based attempt at trying to make sure that everything always goes the way I can package it and keep it well in control. And that's probably one of the biggest transitions and transformations that all of us are making here. You know, we've had Zoom weeks where we've talked about ways that we give up control. Now I'm going to a more specific, we want to go to a more specific version and ask you, how have you transformed, and what is the version of your old self versus what's going to be the new self for 2021? So remember, guys, the more vulnerable, the better. Eddie and Belinda and Danny and Maria, very, very strong kudos to you guys for laying your head on the chopping block like that. Who wants to go? And I know my mom is there and she's live. I don't know if she's listening. She'll probably answer with something completely unrelated about the political system, which is totally cool too. Mom, you there? Joyce. All right, Ashley.
What? Am I unmuted now?
Oh, okay. Ashley, we'll go in a minute. I'm going to take my mom first. Don't go anywhere. You look gorgeous. Joycey.
Okay. Yes, am I unmuted?
You are. You're good.
Okay, good. Thank you. I wanted to thank you all. I wanted to really greet everybody. And Scott, you're doing an incredible job. I don't know if people realize it's such an unusual gift that you're giving, and we appreciate it very much.
Coming from my mom.
No. This is from a very unbiased source. I wanted to say that up front.
Mom,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You asked the question at the beginning of the Zoom, and I thought you were going to ask it again, so I'll repeat the question. You said, what is new about the way we are handling ourselves? I believe that was the question. Is that correct?
Yes, but I want specifics. We want specifics. What is your transformation in the most
vulnerable? I'm going to tell you, and this is so embarrassing and so depressing. I have been fortunate enough to have written many books, and I had them published by good publishers, blah, blah, who cares? Nobody. No one reads books, so it doesn't matter. But I have written 10 books. And I started working on my 11th book, which I thought was the most important, because for the first time, it was about my experiences, about going to the Godhead, blah, blah, all of that. So I'm pretty much almost finished with it, but I realize that nobody cares. So I am not going to do it I'm not going to finish it, and I'm going to put it in the garbage.
Wow.
That's
okay. I have to admit something here. I didn't think you were going to come across. That's huge.
Oh, I always do. I do.
Well, I want to give you kudos. I know you're my mom, but I have to tell everybody, Mom's written a couple of bestsellers. Mom has been in this industry since I was old enough to even cognitively, recognize data in the world. Mom has bestsellers. She's been on every radio, television show from Conan O'Brien to Oprah Winfrey. These people were staple fixtures in our lives growing up. For you to say this and to say that you're going to bail on a book, which I have never heard, I guess in a one sentence, Mom, if you could say it, you went from a person who was obsessed with completion to a person that is going to completely surrender to the energy on the planet right at this moment. Is that fair to say? How would you sum that up in one sentence?
That's perfect. I think I'm tired. I'm tired of writing books and trying to promote them, going on shows, all of that. I don't think that anyone really cares. I think that Zoom is the way to go. And what you're doing, Scott, is the easiest, most efficient way. Although I did go into Barnes & Noble, and they are selling books, or at least trying to sell books. But my big confession is I'm tired. And I want to transform my life and not be so obsessed with writing. I write till 3, 4, and 5 o'clock in the morning after I finish doing readings. And
yeah,
that
but
is
you're
insane.
prolific. But you're prolific, and you've accomplished a lot. And this is an incredible admission. I have to tell you guys, I wasn't expecting this, but this is an incredible admission from Joyce Keller. Ma, kudos for that.
It really is, because you know what? The thing is that I've had such amazing experiences, and they read like fiction, and I realize that no one is going to realize that they're true, and it's going to be a critical theme more than anything else. People will criticize it, and I don't feel like being criticized. So that's my big admission for the day.
You know, without this turning into a big puff piece for Joyce and Scott, I will tell you, Mom taught me a very good lesson early on. I tend to be very scientific in my approach. I tend to overutilize, very, very deep, Newtonian physics and Einsteinian physics types of laws and concepts as a way of explaining the universe around us. And I started writing at an early age, probably because of one of your contacts too, with Long Island Nightlife magazine for their health edition, probably when I was in high school. And, you said you got to write for the 6th grader. You got to write for people who are, looking to read the National Enquirer, because this is what makes you successful. And that has been a great lesson, to write for the masses. Even if you're educated, like I have, who cares? I have 3 doctorates. I've been studying a student my whole life. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. If you can't relate that to the people who are around you, and being a great leader means to make great leaders out of other people. If you can't do that, then it's wasted effort. And that's what I want to give my mom kudos for, because you have been a great writer. You've been successful. And for you to admit this now, maybe this is time to transition. Look, Eddie's a Gemini, a double Gemini also, Mom. And you are a Gemini. Yeah. This is a great tool on an Ayurvedic level. Can I show you guys now the overlap between astrology and Ayurveda? Here it is.
Sure.
This is it right here. These 2 double Geminis, Eddie and Joyce, my mom, have utilized their very adaptable, etheric, airy Ayurvedic energy as a way of catching up with the changing tides in our society. You guys are ruled by intellect, Mercury, and technology. If anybody was equipped to be able to make the shift into what's necessary to go into the new millennium, you guys are. Why don't you pat yourselves on the back? I see Eddie struggling sometimes with new technology, buys all this new shit. It's wonderful, but it's all part of his attempt to use his airy, creative, Ayurvedic Gemini energy as a way of catching up and to be able to change the energy on the planet. This is the crux of this Zoom conference. What are you doing to change the energy on the planet? Mom, thank you. I want to talk to Ashley. Ashley, what do you got?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, sweetie.
Thank you, Scott.
Ash?
Hi.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm better.
We've missed you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you have a way to embarrass yourself now, to make yourself vulnerable?
I don't know where to start.
You don't know where to start. She got so much, you don't know where to start.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this started last weekend, or this past weekend, where I I'm a Sag, so I don't really like expressing my feelings. I don't like being vulnerable. That's like one of those things I like to keep to myself. So I'm working on that very much. So I guess you could say I had a friend of mine, and I was testing this out and, you know, working on this vulnerability thing, and it didn't go so well. It's like, I guess I like to call these things the fear-based programs and the systems. Those things kept popping up, and I guess instead of being vulnerable, it became like a defense mechanism. And yeah. So I wanted to be like nice and sweet, and it turned into like pure ugliness.
Ashley, remember when we did your reading like over a year ago?
Right.
We looked at you, your chart, and it came through very, very clearly how much Pitta energy you had.
A lot, yes.
Right, and we know that reactivity is always, I'm gonna, refer to myself as being on this journey with you, me and you and Belinda, very, 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 very high Pitta energy. You know that your attempt to control and react, that's just the little girl speaking and trying to find value in others rather than ourselves. Blah, blah, blah. All psychoanalysis, right?
Right.
Have you, in this time, done, and I'm going to ask you for that summation sentence based on what you just said in a minute, but have you done things to quell your Pitta energy?
Yes, I'm working on it.
How would you summarize the identity of what was Ashley versus the identity that is new and transformed and ready to go out and change the energy on the planet? How would you identify that?
In one sentence?
Do your best.
So I'm transforming from being the hardcore witch. I'm not being nice to myself right now. Okay, the hardcore witch to being, the more soft, expressive, emotional angel. We'll put it like that.
Oh, so you got that, Eddie? You feel that?
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I feel it too. Hey, Ashley, I don't know what to say. I just, every time I get a chance to see you, I'm always impressed by your vulnerability. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we got a few people here we would love to hear from. Belinda, we heard from. Donna is here with us. And Iris, you're welcome to jump in. We know you're new. Utrus is here. And Eddie, I think maybe this person may be your friend.
Mine?
I know it says mine on here.
I don't know.
I'm not sure who that is.
What's the number?
I don't know because I don't know how to do this. Anyway, it says mine. What was the young lady who was going to come on with us earlier? Your
Marjorie.
Friend? Oh, Marjorie. Marjorie, if that's you, it says mine. And if you're with us, unmute and join us if you can. Donna, is there anything that you wanted to share with us about your version of you, which has been modified and you've looked and made yourself vulnerable? Or you just...
You know what? The only thing I've been trying to think is I've been forced to slow down, and I tore this MCL on my right leg, and it's been healing for 3 freaking months.
Yeah.
So I've been having to slow down and organize my life, and now I set a routine. So I'm calmer forcibly. So, in the beginning, but since I set a routine, and when I wake up and when I exercise and everything, now I just feel more organized and calmer.
So can I do your sentence for you, or do you have a sentence that summarizes that?
No, go ahead, go for it.
I just see the disorganized, and you know, when I first got to know you, I noticed that you were bringing in a lot of information from a lot of different sources, but it wasn't compiled. There was not a compilation. And this is a great week for you because we have the sun and the moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo is is the energy that takes our transformation and actually allows us to implement it by crossing our T's and dotting our I's. It is not the energy, it's not the energy of creation of ideas. We've been going through that for the last 8 months since this pandemic started. A lot of creativity, and Mars was in Pisces, and now we've got the sun and the moon in Virgo, which is all about making sure we execute our plans to get out there and change the world. It's not going to stay that way because there's a few shifts coming up, and it's going to be a rough ride until we get to the end of December. And as we go into 2021, you know, this pandemic is probably going to go through a couple of slides based on what's been foreseen and predicted by the Vedics and by the sages in India, and what's been predicted through astrology. We're going to be basically in a state of frustration over the Saturn and Pluto transformation if we allow it. How do we handle this? Well, let's use this as a time to cross our T's and dotting our I's. This very Zoom conference is an example of us getting it done. We don't need to explore all these ideas of what is the recreated version of ourselves. We've already done it for the most part. I say that with the exception of Maria and Iris, who are going to read this week. But generally speaking, you guys already have an idea of how you like to recreate yourself just by the very notion of you being here today. You know you want to get out there and change the energy on this planet and be in service to people. Iris.
Okay, hi. I only want to say thank you so much for the invite. I am excited to be part of this group. I'm open to learn more about myself and see how that can change the way of my perspective.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Do you feel that you have, Iris, do you feel that you have made some transitions in consciousness or ways you'd like to change and recreate yourself over the course of these last 8 or 9 months? Or has there been a lot of frustration, or have you just been in a state of suspended animation? How could you describe your mindset and consciousness over the last 8 months?
To be honest, I have been working on myself from the last 5 years. You know, during these last 8 months, I think I had been really patient, and you know, for me, this is something that the universe is trying to telling to us that we need to pause, think better the way that we were doing things. And we had to learn from this, you know, and be more empathic with the people, try to be more vulnerable.
Do you think, Iris, that you need to learn more vulnerability yourself, or you think it's just a general lesson across the board?
No, I think all of us need to be more open and put our heart and our feelings in everything and try to be less ego person.
Excellent.
And think more in like a community, you know, because at the end we are all together in this world, and whatever happened, can happen to all of us. This is what this COVID thing is telling to us, you know. Nobody is different. You can have a lot of money. Anyway, you can get sick in the same way that the poor people can do.
Iris, you know? Are you a water sign? Are you Cancer or Taurus or
I am Cancer. I am Cancer.
That explains it.
Why?
That's beautiful, sweetie. Thank you for sharing that. And you know what? You say the key words, you know. Each week we've been meeting with this group has been meeting together. And Adam, we're going to come to you in a second because we haven't heard from you. I just saw your beautiful little face. But Iris, each week we've been having this meeting with people. And what's been happening is we're getting more and more involved in this ongoing connection with making ourselves vulnerable. And the reason why is I wasn't even going to do this conference, but you know what happened with a lot of the speaking engagements that got canceled because of the COVID. I decided that a few people wanted to get some information, and it started out with me wanting to learn Zoom. Next thing I know, a few people are asking questions. The next thing I know, we're getting a bigger and bigger group. The next thing we know, we're developing a theme. And the next thing I noticed is that God and the universe are giving very strong messages as us all, in regard to us all getting together as a collective to experience the one thing that's going to help us move forward, and that is vulnerability. We cannot ask the world to change until we're vulnerable. And this seems to be an ongoing theme over the last couple of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So Iris, I want to thank you for joining and reinforcing that. And now, the most vulnerable of all, Mr. Adam Abramowitz has something he wants to share with us.
I do? Okay. Definitely, yeah, vulnerable, right? Yeah, sure.
Adam, you always let me put you on the spot, bro.
Yeah, you know, I think that one of the things that's changed, that one of the ways that I was before, and is definitely like a theme in my life, is I have felt safe and protected when I've had another person in my life to take care of. Wow. As long as I had somebody there that I was, you know, helping with something, I felt that that gave me a sense of self and meaning. And what I found is that over my whole lifetime, I really never got to know who I actually am. So I'm going through a process right now with all this death and transformation where literally people are dying constantly. And I go like, just get out of the grief for a minute and boom, somebody's died again. But it's actually offering me the opportunity to stop putting other people's needs before myself. So right now I'm trying to, I was identifying a lot with what people were saying about being stuck, because I have projects for one friend who just died. I have projects for another person, and none of them, like, I can't decide what to do next. And, you know, the concept of taking care of me first has finally dawned on me.
Oh,
and
boy.
What it, like, unfortunately right now with like you were saying with Mars retrograde, and then the general confusion of this time, I don't know what to do next a lot of the time. And so I've been doing a lot of nothing, and that's been okay. But
you have at the same time, first of all, we know we can all be overly critical of ourselves, but let's go back. You know, it's so interesting. When we do couples counseling, we notice that when people come in and start to really complain about their partner or even themselves, they look at the things they haven't accomplished and the things that are not right in the relationship, which is usually a minuscule fraction of the things that did go right. As an example, you woke up together in the same bed. You kissed each other. You had breakfast. You kissed each other goodbye. You talked a couple of times throughout the day. Yes, there was a discussion about who left the toothpaste off the toothpaste cap off the bottle. But that's what you come in for counseling for, because that's the one thing that you home in on. Through law of abundance, we know we did about 99 things that were wonderful, and one thing we can focus on that was taking all our energy, because we want ourselves to be perfect. Now, I know I've created a glossy version of this, but Adam, I use you as an example, and I'm sorry, brother, to put you on the head on the chopping block, but you are one of the most encouraging versions of this. You have done miraculous things in the area of self-awareness, physiological awareness, and spiritual awareness. We are a trifold existence of body, mind, and spirit. We are looking for balance and excellence in all those areas. Okay, did you work out today? Did you eat the right foods? Take care of the body vehicle. Did you meditate today? Did you pray today? Did you do a kind act of service for somebody? Take care of the spirit. Did you read today? Did you do a crossword puzzle? Did you do things that intellectually stimulated you with somebody else? Yes, cultivated the intellect. This is a very daunting task, but we're trying to do this. Adam has been doing this, okay? Making changes on the physiology. Really, Adam, I mean, we're focusing on the things we didn't do. You have been miraculous this year, brother. I've been on this road and this ride with you, and I'm honored to be on it with you. And you've made great strides, and you have what everybody else has here today. Even the newcomers, oh my God, Maria and Iris, thank you. Been making yourselves vulnerable and allowing yourselves and your voice to be heard. I'm telling you, we are going out as sheep among wolves in this new millennium. You're going to have to get your balls and your chutzpah up to be able to do this. And it starts today. It starts every day, every Friday, or whatever other wonderful things you're doing to gain your strength. So in completion of today, because we're running a little bit behind, thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody. Remember, we are the gods and goddesses that created everything at the beginning of this experience. To pray to an external God and say that he or she or they are not part of our very matrix would be to disempower us as those gods and goddesses, okay? We are going out to change the energy on this planet as we go into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of two things. Does everybody know what age of Aquarius actually means? The two things that are most Aquarian: philanthropy, to serve the planet and to move it forward in the new millennium. And number two, expanded mindset. I should have said expanded mindset first because one propels the other, but it doesn't matter because we're circumferential and both can propel each other. But we're going out as these lambs to go out and change the energy. And around us are going to be people who are, you know, the Vedics in India said there's a vibration of two groups going on the planet right now. One group that is still committed to frustration and finding themselves and battling and trying to get their voices heard, which is not necessary. Only in our little group as a way of developing our power do we do that. But in the social structure, to do that creates conflict. And then there's the other group, which is committed to transformation, love, and most of all, acceptance. Why? Because we're all cut from the same fabric. When we leave this vehicle, we're going to go back into the universal pool of water of oneness. Is there any difference? Is there anything I can do to Maria or to Eddie or to Adam that's not me doing it to myself? No. So we know that we're in a state of oneness. We're going forward with this mission, and I thank you all for chiming in today. And if you have ideas on ways that you would like to this Zoom conference to go, please send me a text, send me an email, whatever, and we'll do it. Right now, what I've been doing, and I talk about this with Edward and Adam every week, is that the current astrological pattern that's going on, I believe, has the most significance for that present week that we do this on. However, there's a big mission, which is to deal with this big transformation of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter that's been going on. Guys, it's not staying there forever, but it is going to be a little bit of a frustrating fall because it's not moving a heck of a lot. So what do? We talk about it. We jockey for position. We dot our I's and cross our T's. And we get ready to be the shakers and the movers and the changers. Okay? Remember, great leaders make leaders of other people. And again, thank you guys. And remember to text me if you have anything you want to add. And before I go, I want to just mention, I've read everybody here, and you guys have done your own introspection into your own astrological and Ayurvedic profiles. I'm looking forward to working with Maria and Iris this week, and maybe Marjorie also, Eddie. But if you guys have any questions on the current aspects of your chart as it pertains to what's going on currently in the universe, I'm just a phone call and a text away. And you got my mom too, www.joycekeller.com. We got Donna, who's also a fabulous intuitive. And you guys are your best intuitives. You know how to be a great intuitive? I don't have Drago with us today. He and I said it very clearly. He's a famous scientist from Serbia. You want to know how to be a good intuitive? You have to just listen to what God is saying. And if you want to know what God is saying, you just got to shut the F up and listen. So I'm going to say, love you guys. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you guys next week. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, thanks.